Now, press advocates say at least 61 journalists and media workers have died in the war on Gaza. The Committee to Protect Journalists says the first month of the conflict was the worst for media workers in more than 30 years. Muntasser Sawaf was one of the latest casualties. The freelance cameraman was working for the Turkish Anadolu agency. He was killed on Friday in an Israeli airstrike along with several members of his family. Let's speak now with one of his friends and colleagues, Hind Kudari, who joins us on the line, the phone line now from Deir al-Balah in Gaza. Hind, of course, we talk to you every day, several times every day, in your role as a correspondent, talking about what's happening on the ground. We'd just like to talk to you this time about your experiences as a journalist in a war when all around you, your friends, colleagues and fellow journalists are being killed and wounded. And Muntasser, as I say, was a friend of yours. First of all, can you tell us what happened to him?
First of all, I would like to mention that Muntasser is the only or the first friend I lose in 60 days. He's maybe the third or the fifth very close colleague that we lost. Muntasser stayed in the Gaza Strip in the northern area and refused to evacuate with us to the south because his family was injured. So two of his brothers were injured in an airstrike when they were covering on the Gaza Strip, and he chose to stay with his brothers because it was before the Al-Shifa invasion, and the situation was very critical, and he was trying his best to find a doctor to do a surgery for his brothers. So he stayed in Al-Ahli hospital because it was operating at that time. So then what happened was, stayed in Gaza. He covered a lot of stories, a lot of pictures, and especially after all the destruction that happened in Gaza, he was one of the few journalists who took those photos. Muntasser, a couple of days ago, was killed with an airstrike on his house, in front of his house, where he was with his brother and his cousins. He was injured. He bled for 30 minutes, and there were no ambulances, and he died because there was no one to rescue him or save him.
It must be just so hard. It must be so hard, Hind. Do you recall, can I ask if you recall what your last conversation with him was? Do you remember that?
Well, the last conversation, he texted me like 2 hours before he was killed. He told me that, oh my God, you have a new T-shirt, because he knows that we evacuated with 2 shirts. And he saw me on my Instagram story wearing a new hoodie, but I did not have time to answer him. I did not have time to reply back to his text. He used to text me every single day, "I'm alive," with a happy smiley emoji. And I was always telling him, "Take care, Muntasser. We love you. We believe in you, and stay safe." But we feel so sad that we were not able to go to the north to give him the last goodbye, to even bury him. We don't know who buried him, where is he buried. We don't know anything. And it's not only Muntasser, it's his brother too. And weeks before this target, his father was killed and other family members were killed. He was working after his whole family was killed when they targeted his house. Muntasser was a very nice person. He was very kind-hearted. He was always initiating to do us tea, coffee, sandwiches when we were stuck in Gaza working before we evacuated. He was a very kind-hearted person, and everyone loved him. And there's a very famous reel on his Instagram, feeding kittens. He was this person who cares about everyone, even animals and kittens. And he was a very beloved person. And
we're looking at some of the photographs of his on the screen right now. I mean, it's so emotional, isn't it? And